Thanks for joining me, talking titles. Time for a title review or title reaction. Just recently finally watched Versus, title from the year 2000. This is the Tokyo Shock release, Ryuhei Kitamura, and of course starring Tak Sakaguchi, who went on to do some other Japanese splatter and gore type of films, where I think this is kind of maybe the origin of that. It also kind of got the start of Kitamura's directing, writing, and stuff like that. This was an independent film. It wasn't his first that he was a part of, but it was an independent film that he put together over a period of time, and it was kind of labor of love as far as what I've read about it, being an independent film and kind of being an international hit after it was released. But anyway. I want to read the synopsis to you here on this particular title, because I don't always read the synopsis of films. When I do, sometimes I obviously know what to expect going in, but sometimes I don't, just to see if I can figure out what's going on throughout the particular film as I'm watching it. For this one here, there are 666 portals that connect this world to the other side. These are concealed from all human beings. Somewhere in Japan exists the 444th portal, the Forest of Resurrection. Now, reading that, I maybe expected a little more, left a little more to be desired as far as the setting goes. You think portal, you think maybe like sci-fi type of atmosphere. Well, basically the entire film takes place in the Forest of Resurrection. Thinking about it as an independent film, obviously they had limited budgets, so they're not going to go and create portals and huge machines and spaceships or anything like that. Not that this particular storyline would necessarily call for that, but when you think of portals, maybe, at least when I did, I thought, wow, this is going to be a little different. At least when I was watching, I thought, wow, I thought this was going to be a little different. But from the very beginning, I kind of got a little confused maybe on what to expect throughout the film. Starts off with a couple prisoners escaping and meeting up with a gang of thugs at a certain point, and then they're waiting for somebody to show up. So as they're waiting, there's a lot of dialogue going on, and the female is brought there that she was kidnapped for whatever reason, for the same reason everyone's meeting. And obviously you'll find that out as you go along through the particular film. They have a lot of dialogue back and forth, and I thought a lot of it was meaningless, but what I thought there was an opportunity there for, at least maybe they were showing their inspiration. Immediately I thought of the movie Reservoir Dogs and that opening restaurant scene. There was an opportunity there, I think, to maybe draw a little more upon that, but again, the dialogue to me was a little worthless. It didn't really go anywhere. It didn't really mean anything. Maybe not to some people the Reservoir Dogs dialogue meant anything, but I just thought it was very uninspired dialogue going back and forth at that particular juncture in the film, where they're all just standing there waiting, chatting. Not really chatting, but eventually some violence occurs, and some folks start turning into zombies. Now, throughout the film, it's not focused on it that it's a zombie film or anything like that. I mean, even from the cover, you think of it maybe a martial arts film. With this, that's Tak Sakaguchi's character, one of the prisoners on the cover, but you might not think of it being a zombie film. It's not really a zombie film. They call them monsters a lot. They don't really, I think a couple of times only they call them zombies. But these people just start rising from this forest of resurrection. You find out why later on in the film, and eventually after a bunch of fighting and what I call a lot of slapstick comedy. I know what Rami and Campbell were trying to do a lot with the Evil Dead series. So being set in a forest and containing some elements of slapstick comedy in the midst of all the action, I think it drawed upon that as well, as far as the Evil Dead goes. You obviously see a lot more of the slapstick with Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 3, whatever you want to call it. But I think that there's a lot of inspiration drawn from that. I mean, you even see at some points films like The Matrix, which was coming out at the time, 1999, 2000. There are some elements here that seem to parody movies like The Matrix and stuff like that. Some really laugh out loud moments. But there's a lot of action in this. There's a good deal of comedy and even some slapstick comedy. I don't think it's the focus of it, but when it's thrown in, it's done pretty well. And to go back to what I was saying about the synopsis, at the end of the movie, you think about, wow, that was just a 2-hour film. Probably a little too long. At least what I thought, just a little too long. But that whole time where I was kind of feel like there's something more that should be here after reading that synopsis. That same confusion or desire to know a little bit more about what's supposed to be going on here, it kind of left me entranced in the film for the full 2 hours. I wanted to just keep watching, see what's next, what's going to happen, what's going on here, and it kind of also at the same time left me a little concerned about the film. It also kept me going throughout the film. So that's kind of a negative turned into a positive, I guess. But you'll get a lot of action in this. You get a lot of the slapstick comedy. Yeah, like I said, a lot of comedy thrown in very tastefully. And there's a lot of elements of that Japanese splatter and gore type of film that was seen more with the maybe 2005 release, or at least what I've read is Meatball Machine is maybe like the first real appearance of that Japanese splatter gore type of film. But I think you go back all the way to this. Obviously, you can go back to a lot of other movies throughout the years and cite different moments of that in different titles. But I think there's a lot of elements of this in it, and I think this is maybe where it starts in the year 2000. And Tokyo Gore Police, the Machine Girl, and stuff like that. But Versus, I think, is a lot of that where it starts. So if you're into the action, coupled with some slapstick comedy, comedic elements, the gore, the horror. Obviously, there's a lot of horror elements. You've got people coming from the dead, and that's where a lot of the action generates these people coming from the dead. So again, it's not really a zombie film, but there is elements of horror in it. So you got a lot of action, martial arts, obviously, horror, comedy, and the gore elements are here. I think this is a movie for you if that's what you're looking for, if you haven't seen it already, obviously. Now, I usually rate out of 10 when we're talking titles. You can divide that by 2 and rate out of, then it'll be a rating out of 5 if you want. But this for me was an 8 out of 10. I really did enjoy this. And oddly enough, as I get set for the review for this, to give you guys a reaction on my take on Versus, there wasn't a lot of talk about a sequel to this for some time. Now, after it came out, there was talk about a sequel 2, 3, 4, 5 years after it, and a lot of people were really concerned about it, saying, well, the ending was the way it was. You need to go ahead and just leave it alone. Well, I can see that as well, but if Versus 2 can maybe tie up a lot of loose ends for this particular film on why is this a battle of good versus evil, of an eternal battle of good versus evil, or what exactly it is, what's going on in these portals. We just saw one portal here, and this particular portal was in a forest. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. Obviously, it'll be a bigger budget and stuff like that. A lot of people feel that can ruin films and stuff like that. Well, it's yet to be seen. Anyway, after maybe about 5 years, this talk dead subject. Nothing about a second Versus or a sequel. Just recently, No One Lives is a new film that Kitamura is going to be releasing, and he got up and talked about it recently, a couple days ago, I think. Maybe it was even over the weekend. He talked about it and said, hey, Versus 2, 2014. So talk is happening again about Versus 2, and apparently, I don't know if it's set in stone, but we'll look for it in 2014. I think it'll be a good opportunity, like I said, to tie up loose ends and give people another opportunity to see what's going on with these portals. It'll be interesting to see what happens, let's put it that way. But I'm 8 out of 10 on this. This is, again, Versus, and this released on Tokyo Shock. And hope you enjoyed that film if you've seen it. If you haven't, I hope you'll check it out. And if you're a fan of those different elements in the film that I mentioned, I certainly do highly recommend this particular title. Well, until next time, we'll get into some more reviews, collection updates, and stuff like that. And again, we'll be talking titles here. I appreciate you joining me.